Wow, that sounded like a Hollywood success story or what? Sure did. Well, to tell you the truth, it wasn't all about success. There was a lot that happened on the road between here and here. One of these pictures is a picture of me, a poor farm girl on the farm in Texas, on my donkey Ruth. And I hope that you can immediately say which one's me and which one's the donkey. And the other one is me here today. And there was a lot that happened on the way to that success story. In fact, only about 55% of that story is a success. The other 45% are failures, and some of them really big failures. But what I learned was in order to come out on top as a success, your successes just need to be bigger in magnitude, meaning, and number than your failures. The reality is along that journey, oftentimes we feel like the failures are bigger than the successes. And what we have to do with those failures is accept that they're an important part of our journey, and we have to learn how to fail successfully, because successes and failures are of equal importance to our journey. So I want to talk to you for just a minute about the failures. When I was working on my PhD in the very first semester, I decided to get married and divorced. Not only was it big enough of a distraction to get married, but I really had to mess it up and go through a divorce in those first 6 months. After I graduated with my PhD, I wrote a postdoctoral grant and got one of the biggest postdocs available in the United States, only to find out 6 months later I had made a mistake again. You see, I had written a grant to study sleep research and to study the neurons and how they communicate while we're sleeping, which meant that me, not at all introverted, a little bit of extroverted, and I like to be with people, would go to work in the morning in the lab and arrive to my animals who were phase shifted and who were in the night phase. That meant at 8 o'clock in the morning for me, it was midnight for the animals, and I worked all day long in the dark. It was a huge failure, and 6 months later, I quit my postdoc. And then the entire scientific community went, Renee, oh my God, you have so much potential. You could be such a big success. But you're a failure because you quit your postdoc and you'll never, ever get a job in academia. And you know what? They were right, I didn't. But I moved on from that failure and I got a job in the pharma industry, which is something that really inspired me. And a year and a half or so later, a company came to me and we said, Renee, we like what you're doing, and we want to hire you and move you from Austin, Texas, to Solingen, Germany. Anybody here from Solingen? Yeah. Might not have been the best decision. But I did. I said, you know what? I like risk. So within a 6-week period of time, I quit my job, I packed my things, and the cat and I were on the way to Germany. 18 months later, I discovered that I wasn't really a good match for that company, and I quit my job. And that was probably one of the biggest failures in my career, because now I am an American woman. At that time, I didn't speak any German, unemployed, living in a foreign country as an illegal alien. It can't get any worse. But what I found out is that that doorway, that failure, opened the doorway to something beautiful. And that's when I got the innovation to start my own set of companies. The truth is, the fear of failure is one of our biggest fears. In fact, it's such a big fear that it prevents most of us from setting big goals and going on to greatness in our life. The good news is that there's something that we can do about it. We just have to understand how the mind works. Our conscious mind is responsible, this is the rational one, it's responsible for about 10% of our decisions and our actions. The subconscious mind, which is the location of our recent memories, and our unconscious mind, which is the location of our long-term experiences, both bad and good, are responsible for the majority of our decision and actions. That means that the majority of what we think, act, do, the way we behave, is controlled by a part of the brain that we might not even be aware of. You see, the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind take all of the data that's coming in from the outside world, and they use a program called your mindsets to make decisions about your survival. And the logic works like this. It's working on this survival level. It works like this. If it worked in the past and you survived, then we're going to use the same behavior and action today to make similar decisions, even if those actions and behaviors are not good for you today. This reactionary decision-making from the mindsets might work really good in this situation, where a long time ago we had to make decisions about our survival and avoid the tiger. But this type of decision-making coming from our unconscious and subconscious mind doesn't work so good in the modern jungle of our profession. It's here where we need to be able to set our goals and our aspirations and being able to go for it. But you know what? There's something that we can do about it. We can pre-program our subconscious and our unconscious mind. And we can reprogram the programs that are running that are limiting mindsets. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about my mindset and how I overcame it, and then I want to inspire you to think about what might be holding you back. As I mentioned at the first slide, I'm a girl from Texas, and I grew up on a ranch, and we were extremely poor. In fact, at times we didn't even have enough to eat. And I realized that my mindset, the programming in my subconscious mind, has to do with money. I have a money mindset. This didn't become obvious until I started my first company in the pharmaceutical arena in Münster, I was at the time. And when I started my company in the pharmaceutical arena, the average contract value was about 1 million euros. And I kept sending proposals out for these projects, and I didn't win any of them. And I said, what's going on here? And I realized that there was a program running that said, Renee, you don't deserve to win those big projects. Renee, €1 million project, are you sure you can do it? And I would send the proposals out, and my customers didn't believe I could do the projects either. So I said, I got to do something about this. I have to work on this program that's running. And I had just returned from one of my offices in the emerging markets, and I had some money in my pocket. And I took that money out, and I wrote on the money a bunch of zeros. And I wrote on it 1 million euros, because this was the average contract that I was going for that I couldn't win. And I said, okay, Renee, our mind works like a flight simulator. We can simulate this success. We can simulate and reprogram the mind. Every day when I stood up and I went down to my desk, I took this 1 million euros and I put it in my pocket. And every day I felt what it felt like to be successful at winning one of those big projects. And every day my confidence grew, and I believed I could do it. And every day the confidence that my customers had in me grew. And within a 30-day period of time, I signed my first almost 1 million euro project. I reprogrammed the mindset that was running in my mind. And I've seen it happen time and time and time again with many people that I work with that we're able to reprogram our subconscious mind. You can do it too. What you have to ask yourself is, am I going for my biggest goal? When I want to go for my biggest goal, is there something that makes me feel a little uncomfortable? That feeling uncomfortable is the physical manifestation of that mindset. Ask yourself what mindset you have and what you can do to overcome it too. Because like I said, our brain is like a simulator. You go through the simulation of success, you go through the simulation of having your goal, and you can reach it too. So after we've worked a little bit on our mindset, there's a second thing that we need to do. And that is, we have to take action towards our goal. And the most important action that we need to take is taking imperfect action. What does that mean? Imperfect action means having a goal and taking a small step towards it. It means taking a step towards your goal when something is good enough and leaving perfectionism behind. Now, I know we live in Germany, and I know that perfectionism is a difficult thing to leave behind because we live in a country where we say, oh, I can't take action. I can't do that unless I have a degree in it. I can't do that unless I've had training in it. I can't do it unless it's perfect. But let me tell you, there are two good reasons why you should practice imperfect action. The first reason is if you break your goal down into small steps, little tiny steps, and you take a step towards it and something doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. If it's a small step, you'll realize that it was the wrong step, and you'll take a step to the left. And then you take another step forward in imperfect action. You're able to adjust and keep going forward. The second reason we should leave perfectionism behind and take imperfect action is that your brain rewards you for taking a step towards your goal. It's called the science of motivation. If you take a small step towards your goal, you get a dopamine reward in your brain. You take another step, you get more reward. Each step you take, you get more of a reward from your brain for taking those steps. And here's the great thing. You say, I'm gaining momentum. That's not just a feeling. That's a physical and chemical change in your brain. You're getting a reward for taking that action. That's the second reason you should take imperfect action. So you may be thinking, okay, Renee, how do I do that? How do I start with imperfect action? Because my life is pretty full. It's full of all of these different things, and it's very hard to think about how I could go for my goal. There's not much room in my life for me to be able to take any imperfect action steps. What's the first step that I should take? It's very hard to fit in what I really want into my already busy life. The key is we have to prioritize. And the first thing that we have to prioritize is you. You, what you were born to do, and what it is that you want to do. And then you take those goals and you break them down into 30-day goals. You break them down into 90-day goals, 6 months goals, 1-year goals. And you focus on putting those big rocks in first. And when you do that, you'll find that there's enough space for the rest of the stuff in your life. When you put the big rocks in first, there's enough room for Facebook, there's enough room for WhatsApp messages, there's enough room for email, there's enough room for all of those other things. You gotta put the big rocks in first. Thank you. So after you've taken imperfect action and you've put the big rocks in first, it's imminent that somewhere along the road you're going to fail. Failure is part of innovation. And what we have to learn is how to fail successfully. We're going along, we ride our bike, we fall off, we cry, we get a little mad, probably madder than we are hurt, and we get up and we try it again. We learn how to fail successfully. So how do we do that? Well, there's a few key points to learning how to fail successfully, and I absolutely am the expert at doing this. First, when something fails, you have to separate your person from the failure. Just because a project fails or a relationship fails doesn't mean that you personally are a failure. You have to separate yourself, your pride, your ego, and your self-confidence from the thing that fails. The second thing is you have to ask yourself, okay, what can I learn from this failure? Did I plan enough time, resources, money? Did I put the big rocks in first? What can I learn from that? And here's a big aha moment from the story of my life. Almost every time I had a very, very big failure, it was because the universe was trying to tell me something. The universe was trying to say, Renee, you're not on the right track. Stop doing that. It's not a success. Do something else. Get on the right track. And every time I failed, almost every time there was a big failure, it got me back on the right track. Another thing about failing successfully is look at the failure and ask yourself, okay, this is the result, this is the failure. How can I repurpose or reposition this failure? And I want to give you two examples. Post-it notes, Viagra. Post-it notes are the result of a glue that failed. The glue was supposed to be a permanent glue, but it didn't stick permanently, and the result was a brilliant tool that I use in my office every day. Viagra. Viagra was a side effect that was noted in clinical research of a cardiac compound. The cardiac compound was not working so well in the clinical trials, but whoa, were the patients happy. Look at how you can repurpose your failure. Your failure might not be as big as Post-it notes or Viagra, but try to find the value of what's in your failure. And it's very important to remember that failure is part of the innovative process. It's just part of the game. Just like learning how to ride a bike. Everything is difficult before it becomes easy. And you think about it, learning to ride a bike was also difficult, but you took the chance, you took the risk, you failed, you got up, you took the chance again, and it became easier and easier. And it's the same with those big projects today. And I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. The first is you owe it to yourself to go big in this lifetime. You have a purpose, you have something to do. You don't have time to play small. You need to take those risks. You need to learn how to fail successfully. And interestingly enough, over 99% of our DNA is just like everybody else's. It's that little small piece of our DNA that makes us truly unique in who we are. You have no choice where you came from, just like I didn't. But you have full choice and decision-making about where you're going. I want to encourage you to go out there, take a chance, go for your bigger goals, and be brilliant. The second thing I want to leave you with is a present, because I decided to do something new today, something that I've never, ever actually done on stage before. But I've been talking about taking a risk and going for it and uncovering your fullest potential. And I decided to do something I've never done. This is a huge risk, but I think it will be a final metaphor that will stick in your mind. This newspaper is a metaphor for our life. It's full of all of the different colors. And yeah, the Bildzeitung. And if we set big goals and take imperfect action and work on our mindsets, then we too, if we change our perspectives, might be able to overcome boundaries. And just like our life, if we overcome those boundaries, we might find something beautiful in the newspaper. Oh my God, there's supposed to be some flowers in here. Oh my God. It didn't work. But wait just a minute. There is something still in here. There may not be flowers, but there's green. That's kind of a piece of a flower. Red, that's one of the flowers colors too I was planning on. I didn't get flowers. Blue, okay, part of my flowers. Let's see if this one might be yellow. I didn't get flowers, but you know what? I did get a result. So next time I'm going to try it again on stage, and next time I might be successful. Thank you very much.